2001: A Space Odyssey is a film that will forever be referenced as a quintessential science fiction film for its fantastic depiction of space travel and incredible display of zero gravity through movie magic. It is fair to say that the film can be implanted in film history for another reason as well: editing. The editing in 2001: A Space Odyssey is as incredible as the film itself, and the reason for that is because of the techniques Ray Lovejoy employed, like montage editing, the Kuleshov effect, and likely the film's most famous, match cuts. Stanley Kubrick and Ray Lovejoy used montage for a great deal in the first act of the film 2001: Space Odyssey. The reason for this is to help acclimate the viewers to this futuristic world that's been dreamed up, with flying space stations and ships floating around. The way montage is primarily used in 2001: Space Odyssey is quite different than the way montage is used in most films. Most films use montage to represent passage of time. Take Rocky, for instance, with its training montage that not only represents a passage of time, but Rocky's progression as he goes through his training camp. In Rocky, montage is used not only to speed the viewer through time, but it tells a mini story within the montage. 2001: A Space Odyssey is different, not in that it is not used to progress through time, but as stated earlier, it helps the viewer become accustomed to this seemingly faraway land. Those shots, coupled with John Strauss's Blue Danube Waltz, represent the elegance and majesty of what is flying through space. This later becomes ironic when the horrors of the rest of the film play out. Likely the most interesting aspect of 2001: A Space Odyssey is the filmmaker's ability to make life from an otherwise lifeless and relatively meaningless piece of set design. What is being talked about here is Kubrick's ability to bring HAL 9000 to life and somehow get a brilliant performance out of a film lens wrapped in gel. This doesn't occur because of the outstanding performance given by the voice actor, not to take credit away from Douglas Rain, but HAL 9000 has a distinctly monotone voice throughout the entirety of the film. The reason that HAL 9000 is able to become the most memorable character in the film can be largely credited to the use of the Kuleshov effect. What the Kuleshov effect is able to do is create a new meaning between two pictures of videos that are played one after another. In the original experiment, the first video was that of a man who has no particular expression, just stares into the camera. The other pictures varied in their content, one being a bowl of soup, another being a child in a coffin, and the last of a woman. When the films are played one after another, starting with the soup, child, or woman, it is very easy to pull emotion out of the man's face that follows. People who were first exposed to the Kuleshov effect gave credit to the actor who did not actually do anything besides stare into a camera, emotionless. Funny enough, HAL 9000 gets the same praise. It's nothing that the character itself does on screen that makes his performance seemingly great. It's what happens before HAL 9000 is shown on screen that gives the red lens apparent emotion. For consideration, the sequence when HAL 9000 is reading the lips of the astronauts trying to talk about him without him knowing. The camera pans back and forth between two close-ups of the astronauts' lips. The edges of the screen are darkened and there is silence, so the viewer knows that the shot is from HAL's perspective. The film then cuts to a stagnant shot of HAL 9000, and the viewer can't help but notice the anger on the non-existent face. They can't help but know that something is brewing around in its brain. The most iconic cut in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and possibly cinema, happens early on in the film. An ape throws a bone up into the air, and as the bone is falling back to the ground, the film quickly cuts to a similarly shaped spaceship floating in the cosmos. The reason why this match cut is so brilliant is not just because of how well the images of the bone and the spaceship fit each other aesthetically, but because of how the two pieces of film contrast each other and are similar to each other in the same way. The two pieces of film are different because they take place in a very different point in time, but also because a bone is not a piece of technology and a spaceship is an engineering feat. The way that these two images are similar, though, is in what they represent, the most innovative and complex tools of their day. That is why this particular match cut is brilliant. It truly sets out to convey exactly what it wants, and in no way can the viewer be confused by what these two images juxtaposed are meant to symbolize. In a film with so many innovations and perfections in filmmaking, it is sometimes hard for people to step back and look at a film for its fundamentals, like editing. But if 2001: A Space Odyssey did not practice such methods of editing like montage editing, the Kuleshov effect, and likely the film's most famous, match cuts, then not only would the film's most iconic character, HAL 9000, not come to life, but the film in a whole could have missed out on bringing meaning and life to the film itself.